Congratulations, you've woken up in a city that belongs solely to you. Here's your crown, your throne. Wander through empty cafes, abandoned museums, and wide-open streets. No queues, no people, no noise, just you and the eerie calm. At first it feels magical, like you've won life's ultimate lottery. Every sound is your symphony, every street your kingdom. But let's be honest, even gods get lonely without followers. The sound of silence can scream. Routine sets in. You establish order. Breakfast at a cafe, which now serves only you, a solo stroll through empty parks, a private showing at the cinema, where the screen whispers secrets to the walls. Life is peaceful. But here comes the twist. Silence grows heavy. You hear your heartbeat like a drum echoing in the void. Is that a creak you just heard? Maybe it's just the wind. Or maybe not. Hello, someone. By the end of the week, you've mastered the art of solo conversations, talking to chairs, cracking jokes at your own reflection. Oh yes, you're the life of the party now. The windows become your audience, and you start to ask, where did everyone go? Congratulations, my friend. You've discovered silence's first truth. Without people, you are both the prisoner and the warden of your mind. Louder is life until it isn't. Welcome to the endless festival of sound and sweat. Music thunders, bodies move, and you're a speck in this pulsing wave of euphoria. Adrenaline surges. You're alive, part of something enormous and chaotic. Sleep. Who needs sleep when life's volume is turned up to 11? The party doesn't stop, but you need to. By midweek, your body raises the first white flag. You're tired. The music, once invigorating, now pounds through your skull like a jackhammer. You try to find a moment of stillness, but the crowd pushes you back into motion. Meals are scarfed down on the go, and personal space, that's just a fairy tale you used to believe in. The dream of silence. By day 7, you start fantasizing about quiet, about empty rooms, closed doors, and muted sounds. The music is no longer music. It's just a wall of noise pressing down on your brain. Faces blur into shapes, voices into static. You can't escape, because the crowd has swallowed you whole. Becoming the archaeologist of emptiness. By now, the city isn't a playground, it's a mystery. You've explored every street, opened every door, but now you've turned into something else. An archaeologist. Old newspapers, discarded postcards, graffiti on walls. Each detail feels like a breadcrumb left by those who came before you. What were they thinking? Why did they leave? You don't know, but the search gives you purpose. Because let's face it, purpose is the only thing standing between you and madness. Routine as a lifeline. By the second week, chaos has given way to order. Wake at 8, walk the east side at 10, read by noon, eat dinner at 6. You've built a schedule, a fragile structure in this silent world. But here's the twist. Even with a plan, you avoid certain places. The empty theater, the dark church. Instinct says no, because when you're alone, some silences feel inhabited. First attempts at dialogue. It sounds strange, but you start talking, not just to yourself. The leaves on the trees become conversation partners, and the wind turns into a patient listener. You say good afternoon to an empty apartment as you walk in, and even crack jokes with the echo of your own words. Don't worry, it's not madness, it's adaptation. Humans need dialogue, even if they create it themselves. And here's the key takeaway from the second week. Finding meaning in solitude is an effort to remind yourself that you haven't disappeared. When noise becomes the default, the music has lost its charm. It's no longer a soundtrack to joy. It's just a sound. Your brain has adapted, filtering it into a dull hum. Faces blur, lights smudge, and conversations dissolve into meaningless shouts. You're not a participant anymore. You're an observer, an exhausted one, who just wants it all to stop for a moment. But it won't. It never stops. When noise becomes the default, the music has lost its charm. It's no longer a soundtrack to joy. It's just a sound. Your brain has adapted, filtering it into a dull hum. Faces blur, lights smudge, and conversations dissolve into meaningless shouts. You're not a participant anymore. You're an observer, an exhausted one, who just wants it all to stop for a moment. But it won't. It never stops. Losing your voice, losing yourself. By now, you don't speak. Why would you? No one's listening. Your voice is just another noise in the chaos, and eventually, you stop trying. That's when it hits you. The crowd isn't holding you up. It's erasing you. You're no longer you. You're just movement, sound, a body pressed into other bodies. The music keeps playing, but you've already disappeared. When the city starts to speak back. By the third week, the city no longer feels empty. It feels alive, but in the wrong ways. Shadows seem longer, buildings seem closer. Every creak of a door, every rustle of wind feels deliberate. You catch yourself stopping mid-stride to listen. Listen to what? You're not sure, but you're certain something is there. The silence that once comforted you now feels heavy. It presses against your ears, smothers your thoughts, and turns your mind into a minefield. You start hearing things, familiar voices, footsteps. It's your brain, desperate for company, tricking you into believing the void is talking back. The rituals begin. To combat the creeping dread, you invent rituals. Breakfast at the same spot every morning, conversations with the empty chair across from you, a precise evening walk that always avoids certain streets. You pretend it's normal, but it isn't. You know it. Maybe you begin leaving notes behind. Hello? Anyone here? Pinned to lampposts, tucked into shop doors. You don't expect an answer. But what if you get one? That thought keeps you awake. Acceptance, or the illusion of it. You stop searching for others. Instead, you settle into your new role as the last human. You own the silence now. It no longer owns you. But there's a catch. Acceptance comes at a cost. You stop questioning the absurdity of your situation because the questions hurt too much. You start talking to yourself out loud, narrating your day like a character in a documentary. And here we see the final inhabitant of the city, choosing which abandoned car to sit in next. The city hasn't changed. You have. The numbness takes over. You no longer resist the crowd. You let it pull you, move you, and shape you. The music is no longer music. It's a vibration that lives inside you, rattling your bones. Your mind shuts down, and your body takes over. You sway because everyone sways. You cheer when they cheer. You've stopped choosing, you're simply reacting. But something strange happens. You forget things. What day is it? What was the last song? What's your name? You don't know And worse, you don't care. The search for isolation in the crowd. Amid the chaos, your brain rebels. It wants silence. It needs silence. You become a wanderer in the crowd, searching for a quiet corner that doesn't exist. You stop trying to connect with the people around you. There's no point. They're just part of the noise. You catch glimpses of faces, tired, hollow, just like yours. And for a fleeting moment, you realize you're not alone in your loneliness. The disappearance act. By now, you're invisible, even to yourself. You've blended so perfectly into the crowd that you cease to exist as an individual. You don't resist this realization. You embrace it. Becoming part of the whole is easier than trying to hold on to a self that's already crumbled. And yet, deep in your gut, a small voice whispers, "Is this what freedom feels like? Or is it surrender?" When the world becomes a stage set. The fourth week strips the city of its reality. The streets are no longer streets, they are stage sets. The park, the cafe, the shop windows, they are all just props in a play with no script. You walk through this hollow world like an actor who forgot their lines, mechanically moving through familiar places that feel increasingly irrelevant. The human traces you once desperately searched for are meaningless now. The only priority left is preserving the fragile thread of your sanity, proving to yourself that you still exist. The voice of silence and last conversations. Talking to yourself is no longer entertainment, it's survival. Your voice is your lifeline, a proof of existence. You read books aloud, narrate your actions, and even hold quiet conversations with your shadow, which now seems more real than the empty city around you. The silence, oddly enough, no longer frightens you. You've embraced it, the same way you embrace darkness before sleep. Silence is no longer the enemy, it is your companion. Reconciliation. The final days, you no longer fight solitude. You've become part of it. You accept that loneliness isn't going anywhere, and strangely, this brings relief. There is a world now, your world, your routine, your voice, and your rules. The empty city is no longer a prison. It is home. And here, at the end of the fourth week, you stop looking for a way out because you've realized something profound. There is no exit, and perhaps you don't need one anymore. Becoming the crowd. The fourth week in the crowd transforms you. You're no longer an individual. You're a wave in a never-ending ocean of sound, light, and movement. Time disappears, faces blur, and the music stops being music. It's a vibration that keeps you moving because there's no other choice. You no longer resist or question it. You just exist. You are a fragment of something massive, and for the first time, that doesn't scare you. The breaking point. But then comes the crack. A small rebellious thought slips through the noise. What if I just leave? You look around for an escape, but there isn't one. The crowd, once comforting, now feels suffocating. You see people laughing and dancing, but their faces are masks, empty and lifeless. You realize you're no longer part of something beautiful. You're trapped inside it. The crowd isn't holding you together. It's holding you prisoner. The hollow smile. The final days bring the truth. You lost yourself somewhere between the third and fourth week. Your voice is gone, your individuality erased. The music, once your fuel, now echoes emptily through the void inside you. You're hollow, yet you smile. Why? Because stopping, truly stopping, means confronting yourself in the silence. And that silence, the one buried under the noise, is far more terrifying than any crowd. British scientists have concluded that the fourth week isn't the end of the experiment. It's the moment of truth, the moment you choose, lose yourself in the roar of 1,000 voices, or finally hear your own. Solitude didn't break you. It stripped you down, piece by piece, so you could rebuild yourself. It silenced the noise, removed the crowd, and gave you something precious. A chance to listen. Frightening? Absolutely. But isn't it far scarier to become just another ripple in someone else's ocean? Your voice swallowed whole by a chorus that doesn't care if you're there. In the crowd, you disappear so quietly, it feels inevitable. Solitude forces you to confront yourself, to see what's left when the world fades away. And maybe, just maybe, that's the only conversation that truly matters. Now it's your turn. What would you choose? Endless silence or eternal noise? Drop your answer in the comments below. And remember, silence reads better than the crowd listens.